All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's get this show on the road, right?
All right.
And here they come
Speaking.
in. As we're getting settled, HOOAH! As we're getting settled here, we're going to go ahead and warn everyone that's coming on board. There's 168 now, 168 people that have said they want to be on this workshop tonight. When they tune in and when they tune out, who knows, because we've all got busy lives. So just do me the favor, quick housekeeping announcement. If you come on and you're not automatically muted, please just do so, because there's going to be so much chaos on the going on. There's also 6 people that'll be tuning in from Beirut, Lebanon, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning over there. Oh, man, God bless him. Gilbert, I see you right over there, buddy. Gilbert, let me go ahead and brag on him while we're getting settled here. Gilbert is one of my dozen only, I only have 12, level 3 master boot camp instructors. Gilbert is the man. I love this dude. Anything I can do, make it happen. He's been there and he's been one step ahead of me every single time. And he recently gave me a PDF about home workouts for youth, because there are a lot of people stuck with their families at home. He asked me to, get my 2 cents on it. I think it's ready to send to you all. So, Gilbert, if you don't mind, we're going to share it, shortly after this program. I got a thumbs up all the way from Beirut, Lebanon. God bless you, brother, because it's 2 o'clock in the morning over there. We also have some people coming in from India, one from Bermuda, and of course, my posse, my friends, my dear sisters and brothers out of Canada. Love you all. Love you all. So once we reach the limit of what's actually that we can take on this particular call, what we're going to do is we're going to have the overflow meet in the live Facebook. So having said that, I'm going to bring on that streaming. And if you want to chat, we're going to have Joseph. He's right outside Toronto. Joseph is logged on, and he's going to make certain that he responds to both the chat areas that are in Zoom as well as the overflow area that's going to be on Facebook Live. All right. So again, please mute when you can. We want to make certain that we have a good opportunity for everyone. All right. I see my speakers coming on. This is great. This is awesome. So before we begin, we're going to just finish with a couple of more announcements. One, I am not doing this alone. Not only do I have the technical expertise from my colleagues, such as Joseph, he's going to be running, that interactive part that's on the chat bars on both the Zoom and Facebook Live. But he's also, I'm also joined by some amazing speakers. Tonight we've got Jen Hall, Tasha Edwards, Michaela Woodall, Elizabeth Lennart, and Steve Feinberg, and Lindsay Schiller. Now, Stephanie isn't going to be making it tonight. Since we have a 2-year-old, we've got to be able to function with that. So, Stephanie's going to be sitting out. And so what we'll have is we'll have Lindsay from Team 2 coming into Team 1. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What we're doing here is we are developing a mentorship team, a mentorship leadership team. And I wanted to put this out there right from the beginning is because, this has blown up faster than I ever thought it would. We've got, right now, the moment that we finished that first webinar on April 3rd, what happened is that I was overwhelmed with phone calls from all over the world saying, hey, we want this Project Hope also for our country, and we want to be part of your team in North America. And You know, I've got people like Edgar C., who's my sponsor and great friend out of Singapore. And, you know, he's quickly organizing some of his speakers so that we can have a Project Hope Singapore. And in the meantime, I've been calling people to kind of see if they share the same vision, because this is supposed to be not an opportunity for us to have any kind of pitch. We're supposed to simply just use this in such a way that that is just a night for us to enjoy a journey of hope and inspiration. That's it. That's the only reason. And let's face it, now since we're all kind of stuck at home right now, we can kind of use that, definitely. You know what I mean? Now, while I'm getting settled here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see if I can get this Facebook Live going on. I don't think it is live yet. Hey, Joseph, is it live yet? It is not. He's saying no. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to go back to my Zoom thing, make certain we get that live. All right. And more, click on stop live stream, and then we'll put live on Facebook. All right. Share on a page I manage, and Sergeant Ken. And there we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. While this is coming up, I see that we're already at half capacity on the toolbar down below. I'm going to go ahead and start with the introduction. And what we want on this one, we're going to stick to a 90-minute target. So it's going to be these TED Talk style, messages coming from all of our speakers that we have on our panel tonight. And yes, it is from Leadership Team 1 with our newest person, Lindsay Schiller. So what we're going to do is, they have 5 minutes to kind of tell their personal story and 5 minutes to have some takeaways, so that we can have not just to be motivated, but to be captivated with some sort of takeaways that are going to help us with both our personal and our professional lives. And that's the objective. All right. So yesterday, my 10-year-old son hugged me and said, "Daddy, I'm so glad that you're home." His soothing embrace and warm words made me surrender from my frantic feelings I was overwhelmed with at that moment. You see, he noticed the stress that I've been dealing with, both, you know, at the house. And he knew that I needed a sudden act of grace and love. See, I was shackled in my own mental prison. I was trying to create sensible solutions for canceled speaking events due to the virus crisis. We don't need to live the way the world is now. We need to live the way we want the world to be. So how do we summon strength in a storm of dread and doubt? How do we effectively lead our family and friends to solid ground when we may not have figured out how to overcome our own obstacles? How do we muster a mindset of growth and resilience in mayhem and misfortune? You know the phrase, some of you have heard me say before, don't fret about where you are, focus on where you're going. Now more than ever is a time for us to abolish anxiety, restore resilience, and to turn adversities into advantages. Now is a time for grace, love, and exceptional leadership for our families and our friends. Now is a time for us to choose courage over comfort and commitment over compromise. Now is a time for action. You know, someone asked me the other day, Ken, if you could sum up resilience really in just one phrase, what would that be? Resilience means to challenge your limits instead of limiting your challenges. Well, not only am I going to serve as your host, I'm also going to serve as, your first speaker. And I'm going to give you, and if you're following along on the handout, great. It was put up on that event page. If you don't have the handout, you can download it later, but let's get ready to take some notes. What I'm going to be providing tonight are the 6 superior strategies to achieve exercise adherence. Now, you see, here's the reason. Your people still need you. They're out there still probably making more mistakes with their diet and their exercise habits than ever because they're stuck at home and they need you. So these 6 strategies to achieve exercise adherence are about behavior change. So let's get ready to go on this joyful journey together. Number one, build rich rapport. To help someone, it means that you need to be alongside them. And we, in the last webinar on the 3rd of April of this year, what we did is we talked about empathy. And empathy, is people don't just want you to have sympathy for them. They want you to feel for them. And so a lot of times what, we need to do is just put other people's needs before our own. I mean, that's the purpose of Project Hope. I mean, let's face it, things in the Weichert household are not exactly perfect. Yes, it's a little crazy. We're homeschooling. We're trying to figure this all out. And I've got all my public speaking events for the entire year are canceled, all of them. But you just got to move forward. And so I didn't feel right about just kind of going out there and just putting out my own certification program and pushing that out, because I knew other people's, problems were probably bigger than my own. So that's what they're looking for. And building rapport, sometimes it's just as simple as a phone call. I don't know how many times that my battery has run dry completely simply because I am giving people the time to talk to them voice to voice, or to see them on FaceTime, because we are starving for that connection. Number two, recognize the reason. Well, what's the underlying reason that people are having some trouble sticking to their diets or sticking to a fitness plan? Is it because they needed to have you right there in front of them for that accountability? Then that all the more reason for you to really try and really use technology for its, what it's there for, and help come up to the point of where you can be there for them, especially when things go bad. Number three, shift out of shame. This one hits home for me, because when the crisis hit and all of my public speaking events canceled, what happened is that, like many others, when they lost their jobs, we immediately started to experience shame. You got to understand the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is, I did a bad thing. Shame is, I'm not good enough. I'm thinking this typical stereotypical thing of I'm the provider. I've got to be able to, make certain that I provide a way of having food on the table and my bills being paid. And it was just a stressful time over the last several weeks. But once I realized that I was just producing shame for myself, what happened is that I started to see it for what it is, push for perspective, and then call it out and bring it to the front, so that I knew that it was a shortfall that I needed to recognize and respond to. Number four, work your worthiness. Come back to a place of knowing that you are enough, no matter what, that you are enough in this present moment. You are enough. Number five, simple, slow steps forward. If you remember that phrase that I told you last time, we don't have to have it all figured out to take the next best step forward. That is a fact. I don't know what I'm doing. Goodness gracious. I'm looking right now and I'm still getting the rainbow death wheel on my Mac just saying that Facebook hasn't gone live yet. Oh my goodness. It is what it is. It's not perfect, but when you start to show your imperfections in that act of humility, when you start to show your imperfections, people really see how perfect you really are. Number six, give yourself gratitude. Every single night, I try and ask my son, what are you grateful for? Because in our gratefulness, we raise this wonderful positive attitude, and we're able to use that as the ammunition against the negative bias that's in the world around us. Now, I've given you 6 quick steps to have some behavior change for both you and your clients, your friends and family. And all I say after the 6th one is repeat if necessary. Repeat if necessary. Now, let's go ahead and bring in our next speaker. And so Jen, you probably even know Zoom better than I do, so I'm just going to give you a quick intro, all right? Jen, let me tell you something about Jen. If you have the handout, you can see a lot about Jen, about how she was a professional dancer and everything. She's just amazing. That's all there is to it. But let me tell you something personal about Jen. When I started my formal CEC approved boot camp instructor certification course, it was in 2005. And here it was, my first location ever was in Atlanta. And she was in the front row. And this person kept coming back with all of these answers back and forth about the answers to every single question that I was addressing to the audience. And it was just absolutely amazing. I said, who is this little redhead? And sure enough, it was Jen Hall. And since then, we've developed not only a professional, teamwork, but we've also have this wonderful personal bond with each other because we share mutual visions and we're grounded, just completely grounded for trying to change people's lives, trying to change the world one community at a time. So Jen, are you on the line? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Jen, unless it's going there. Let's see. I'm going to go back to Zoom. Gallery view. Jen, where are you at? Are you on the line? Okay, if now Jen is on the line, what happens? There she is. Okay, are you ready? Okay, I'm going to unmute you. And now you are ready to go. Jen, hi. Take the wheel.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You're getting thumbs up. Me?
Yes?
Yeah, you're getting thumbs up.
Okay, good. I just can't see anything. My iPad is also doing the wheel of death. So, that's very appropriate for how I was going to start this. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And that is a quote by Albert Einstein. So most of you who were on the call last week got to hear my crazy timeline of difficulty. And this to me is a small blip, but it doesn't feel like that every moment of every day. Just like you, I have moments of panic and anxiety and worry about what's going to happen. What will normal look like after this? Because you know it's not going to look like it used to look. And all those questions. But I try to remember history. So that was our H, right, from Hope last week. History, all the things that I have gone through and what opportunity was presented to me within each tragedy. So we talked a little bit about when my son was in the hospital for 60 days. It was right about the time that Facebook was becoming huge in terms of free advertising before they realized they could charge us money. So I was able to kind of harness the power of Facebook and really learn a whole lot about social media before it was cool. And so it gave me a leg up and gave me a whole new business idea. So one of those things where you find an opportunity within something that's chaotic and crazy. So I want you to think of this time, even if you don't feel chaotic and crazy, even if you just have a little tiny bit of anxiety, or even if you have a handle on it, consider it an opportunity. So if you think about Oxford's definition of opportunity, it says it's a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. So if you were to apply that sentence to you, it means it makes it possible for you to do something that maybe you couldn't or didn't know you should, never thought of. So all the possibilities that are in front of you that maybe you haven't considered before. And I think some of you are probably thinking along the same lines as 90% of Fit Pros. How can I advance my career right now? Like, what can I do at home? What certifications can I take? What specialty certificates can I get? How can I boost my know, like, trust? That's KLT, okay? My know, like, trust factor, or my SME, my subject matter expertise. What are the things I can do to boost my career where I am right now? So I mentioned last time we were on the call that there are several companies that are doing free. I said certifications, really they're specialty certificates. So let me just back off of that. You're probably not going to find NASM or ACE doing anything free, okay? But there are lots of resources for that. I know Tasha is really good about posting those. Sergeant Ken posts a lot of that stuff. So, and you'll see it from all of us. So if you're looking for free, the other thing is there's a lot of discounted stuff going on right now. Idea's website has tons of discounted. NASM and ACE has tons of discounted. Everybody's discounting. And the ones that aren't are offering bonuses. So like if you do the online training, then in the future you can also take a live training, plus you get equipment. Like there's a lot of really amazing stuff going on in terms of career advancement. So that's option number one. What about changing your role? If you think about how you interact with the world, maybe you're a group fitness instructor, maybe you're a personal trainer. So maybe it's time for you to change your role and become the next level of whatever that is. So maybe you need to learn more about management at this time. So you're going to talk to someone who's a current manager in the position you want to be in. Or maybe at this point you want to become a master trainer. So you're going to talk to somebody who's a master trainer and find out what kind of skills you need to do that. Or maybe you're interested in being a blogger, an expert, a consultant, those kind of things. Just about finding a mentor now that you have the time, and so do they, to figure out what you can do within your career already. And the next thing I want you to think about is career diversification. So right now you have this opportunity to stay within your lane, but also change up what you're able to do. So there are free courses and very cheap courses offered through LinkedIn. So if you go into LinkedIn on their pro side, you can find all kinds of education about ways to enhance your business acumen. Same thing on Groupon. There's a lot of really cheap stuff. So if you've always thought to yourself, gosh, I'd like to have my own website, but I don't want to pay for it, you can go in there, take a course, see how easy it is to build one and build your own. That might not be your personality, but it might be something you could or would be interested in after you see how easy it really is. So something along those lines that is easy or free, okay? Discounted as well. I know that I left out one. Oh, so there is an email. It's actually, if you go on socialmediaexaminer.com, sign up for their newsletter. The Social Media University is something you have to pay for, but it's done through socialmediaexaminer.com. So a lot of times they have free courses and things that you might want to learn about that will help you with your LinkedIn or your Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And someone asked me last time, which one should I focus on? And my honest answer is the one that's easiest for you and the one that you're most passionate about interacting with. Because ultimately what you're trying to do is build your audience. So your audience is where you are. So that's the best answer I have for that. If you only want to focus on one, find the one you love. And hopefully it fits your demographic, all right? Also, like I was talking about before, becoming a subject matter expert. So a lot of you guys have already designed trainings for some company or yourself. So technically you're an instructional designer. You know how to write a manual, you know how to come up with objectives, you know how to apply the principles of adult learning. There's all these things you know how to do that other people don't know how to do just by default. So you kind of have to think about outside of the box, and then how can you take those skills and advance them on another level through one of these free or discounted trainings, especially at this point, Doc, right now. I also wanted to say, I have a note in there in quotes about checking them. So I've seen a lot of fit pros angry on Facebook. They're cracking me up about people offering free, workouts. Now, not because they're fitness pros offering free workouts, because usually that is leading into something else that eventually is a paid service, which, you know, we all kind of do that a little bit. But I'm talking about people who are just random fitness enthusiasts out there in their front yard, you know, leading workouts. So if you have a really high know, like, trust factor, and you're a really great subject matter expert, and you reach out to that person and you say, hey, do you know that if you don't have a certification, you're actually subjecting yourself to some liability? They might not have a clue, and they might stop being silly online and subjecting themselves to being sued because they don't have insurance or a certification, because they just don't know any better. So instead of, you know, being crazy on Facebook, you can create a relationship with somebody and potentially help them at a later date. So just a thought about how to channel some of that attitude, right? Also, think about a new skill set. Now's a great time to develop a new skill set. So what do you enjoy? Like, even if it's outside of the gym, I know that's novel. Outside of the gym, what do we do out of there? Well, you should know by now, right? 30 days later, you figured it out. Also, what are you good at? obviously not everything translates. Like, I love tap dancing. Doesn't work so well in the group fitness studio. It messes up the floor. So not everything translates. So you have to think about other skills you have and where they might translate to sources of income, or just even ways to keep yourself from getting burned out, right? What have you always wanted to do or be and never had the opportunity or time to pursue? So now you have this open free reign to do whatever you want. Sounds crazy, but it's true. And there's no time like right now because you're kind of stuck in the space you're in, probably with your children. So, you know, it might be fun to do something different. The fourth one is stoke your fire. So just in case I didn't number them all, number 1 was your career advancement. Okay. Number 2 was your career diversification. Number 3 was new skill set. All right. And number 4 is stoking your fire. So master classes. Now, what I mean by that is online, there's tons of free or inexpensive master classes. So if you love Zumba Strong, you can find Alex McLean, who's one of the amazing Zumba Strong folks and one of my best pals in the universe, out there teaching master classes that you can pay for to take as a member. Like, that's amazing. You can't always do that. Same thing with all kinds of other formats. And I didn't mean to plug Zumba Strong over anyone else. It's just the first thing I thought of. Okay, don't get mad at me. Haters gonna hate, right? So, and then I want you to think about new formats. So maybe you've only taught huge group fitness classes, and you know now you're probably going to be doing small group training just apart from each other. So if you haven't studied that, or if you're not good at that, or if you're worried about that, Sergeant Ken has some great information on his website about small group training, and about how to do things differently than having a whole classroom full of people who are really close together. And then what about creative projects? And again, this are things you do outside of the gym. So do you paint? Do you draw? Do you throw paint at the wall and call it painting? You know, do you make things out of metal or plastic or clay? Do you write poetry? Do you do something outside of fitness that you haven't touched in a really long time because all you do is work and be a parent? Like, now is the time that you can take a few minutes and just do that. So having said those 4 things, my call to action for you is, as you would tell every client that you train or teach, number 1, schedule time for opportunity daily. Just like you do your workout, just like you schedule your eating plan, stick to that appointment. Decide, I'm going to spend this much time every day at this time doing things that are going to advance my opportunity at this time. Now, I don't know if any of you live in Georgia. I can't see you because my Mac is still going, waiting, but I'm glad it's working and you can see me. In terms of, I live in Atlanta, so our governor just said the gyms could start opening this Friday. I think most of the franchises that I consult for have said they're going to do a 2 to 3 week figuring out what their cleaning and sanitation and all that yada, yada, yada plan is going to be before they actually open. So we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks in Georgia, which is a little scary. But anyway, I'm not going to comment on that. But my point there is, like, my opportunity time is dwindling. So yours is still open. So go ahead and start penciling it into your calendar, right? Go ahead and make sure that that's something that you do. The next thing that you should think about is celebrating your milestones. So let's say you are taking that Wix class on how to create a website. Man, it's so easy. I can't tell you guys how. Point, click, paste, yay, text. I'm going to tell you how easy my job is so you can all take it. Okay. So you're going to take that little Wix class, and you'll be so impressed at how easy it is that you'll create your own in no time. So you have to be able to celebrate that milestone in some way. Now, my friend Tasha, I don't think she's going to tell you guys this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. She has amazing goals. And when she does meet her goal, which she always does, she does something amazing, like go to New York and take a master dance class. Like, that's the kind of celebration I'm talking about. Okay, so celebrate your milestones. And the next thing I'm going to say is find an accountability partner. There are a lot of people listening to this right now who all need one. And we're all in a Facebook group. So you can talk to each other and say, hey, I need somebody to be my accountability partner for taking that time to pursue my opportunity while I have this moment. And then I would say, I think on the outline, it only says follow my social media for opportunity, but that's not at all what I meant. Everybody on the HOOAH leadership team comes across opportunities, because most of us are master trainers or ambassadors or managers or something or another where we want teams of people or have the opportunity to give you opportunity, which is what makes all of us happy. So, you know, make sure that you're connected with us still, even if you're watching from, you know, anywhere, Beirut, wherever it is. So I do want to say thank you to all of you, and make sure that you are remembering P is your purpose, right? So as you seek out that opportunity, remember this is an opportunity to seek your purpose. You already know what it is. You've known, right? Changing people's lives in some way or another. You know what it is. And the last one is, I want to encourage you. Like I said to you last time, there's no one in the entire world that can be you like you can be you. And the world needs you to do all the things that you do. So keep up the faith, my friends. And with that, I'll say thank you. And I can't hear, but hopefully I'm going to be able to, I mean, I can't see, but hopefully I'm going to be able to hear you. Sorry, Ken.
All right, Jen, can you hear me though? Okay, great. So I'm going to keep you on. Don't mute yourself right now. I'm going to keep you on because the chat is just blowing up now. That people are really loving your message here. And, you know, when I submitted this program for continuing education credits, that's right. For those that watch this live, get the CECs. We'll talk about that on our Facebook page. But there are people coming in there and chiming in, and Laura Hamilton, I had a great conversation with her recently, and she loves your comment, and she dug into it and elaborated a little bit about scheduling time for appointments daily, doing things that will advance my opportunity. And she also says on your comment about celebrating your milestones, break things down to the ridiculous so you can get to constantly win.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, I love both of those comments, are amazing.
So people continue to use the chat bar right there. And if I don't see it, Joseph will find it and we'll bring it up so that we can make this more interactive than we did in that first webinar, while we're still trying to keep it timely, because you know, this was meant to be something where we can all connect and also make us better than we were before. Jen, you were amazing, just amazing. The comments about your message right here are just so flattering. And I know you can't see them now.
I know.
But
I know.
take my
but thanks,
word
you guys.
for it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Take my word for it. They're amazing. All right, so we're going to introduce the next speaker. So Tasha, let me tell you about Tasha again. Now, so you could probably, you know, get enough between the lines of what you see in the handout about Tasha. But let me tell you about Tasha. Several times in the past, since she's close to where I live in Nashville, Tennessee. She's, you know, she's just south of me in Alabama, right? And so Tasha has dropped what she's had to do on a moment's notice. I mean, talking about last minute, and has shown up to help me teach at classes such as at SCW Fitness and elsewhere. And her ability to connect to the people shows something more than just her intelligence level. What we call it in boot camp, we call it the it factor. And she has got that. So, I really want to give Tasha the full amount of time. So Tasha, are you on the line?
I am on the line. Can you
All right,
hear me?
so we're going to give the floor to you.
Thank you. I feel like you and Jen have already said what I had to say. So I'm kind of just adding a little bit of extra seasoning to the pot. Many years ago, someone who was very close to me said, I see that you're down. I'm coming down there, but we can't stay here. I see you. I understand. I'm with you, but we cannot stay here. I'm going to help you get up. And so I'm hoping that the Project Hope, is a friend to another friend saying, I get you. I'm not going to let you stay there. I'm going to help you up. And so I want to talk about moving forward. And for those of you that were here on the last one, I am in my son's room because there's an entire vibe and story behind the fact that I'm glad my son is alive and well. So that's why you see all the stuff, because he's 22 and living his best life in my house. In 2002, I was married. I got married in November, and I was let go from my job, my master's level counseling job, a week later, I took a job making $9 an hour, teaching nutrition to food stamp participants. 3 months later, I was the director of that program. And then I got pregnant. I moved to another city, an hour out of Nashville, and I had this baby. And now, after being a single parent with a child, working 2 jobs, I am now a stay-at-home parent with 2 children, and my husband's an engineer. 2004, my daughter was born in 2003, I was in a car accident. On my way to school, I was going to take up massage therapy. I needed to have another career. And I was rear-ended, and my husband had to come home with me. That was a Monday morning. Wednesday, he said, I have a kindergartner and a 6-month-old, and my wife cannot walk. And they said, I'm sorry, you're fired. So I went from teaching food stamp participants and running this program to being a recipient on food stamps. My husband's an engineer, and I am a master's level, I had a master's level counseling job. I had to move to Huntsville. This is where my husband's family is. And I took a job at the gym, making $5.15 an hour, selling memberships so that my daughter could go to school part-time, go to daycare. I'm saying that to say that out of what seems like tragedy, there's space for hope and growth, even though it may not look like the best opportunity. Working in that gym behind that desk was how I came into the fitness world 15 years ago. And so now that we're here, because we're all here, what do we do to move forward? It is now time to put one foot in front of the other. Maybe it's one foot, maybe it's one toe. But now is the time to think about our forward movement and what we can gain from this. And because I want to be mindful of your time, I'm going to make sure I have this, and you can follow along with your notes. The M is to make the decision to focus forward. The past is a place of reference, not residence. You can live your life if you want, thinking about how COVID-19 destroyed your life. And the world is still moving about. Now, I am a fan of saying sit in your feelings, because this is hard, this is emotional, this is stressful, and that's okay. Be who you are in this moment, but know that just like with clouds, we don't try to grab hold to them and keep them. This moment will pass, and there's life after that. Keep your eyes on what is. And what is that you are a person with a skill set that can be used, period. That's the focus. Now, how do I take that? As Jen gave you all of these examples of places to maneuver that, now I am empowering myself. I'm not waiting on anything or anybody else to empower me. I'm empowering myself to say, I'm moving forward, even if I don't know where forward is yet. The A, we talked, Sergeant Ken mentioned gratitude, appreciate the journey. There is a peace in seeing everything as part of the bigger picture than fighting against it, saying you want a different life. This is the hand you've been dealt, and it is what it is. You can play with the hand or fold. But and I'm saying as you, I'm saying as we, as I, because we're all in this together, we're all going through it. The more that I began to appreciate the small things, like not having to get up at 4 a.m. when it was 30-something degrees outside. That felt pretty fantastic. Or being able to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning and watch reruns with my daughter. I appreciate that. Thank you, COVID-19. I appreciate that. R does something to my soul, and Sergeant Ken hit on it. It is relinquish the need for perfectionism. Battles are ugly. There is nothing cute about it. There is nothing Instagram worthy about it, okay? But it takes courage to keep looking through and finding your way. And so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be present. Your effort to move forward does not have to be perfect, but it has to be present. And how we show up for ourselves is how we will begin to show up with our clients so that they are empowered to show up for themselves. And that's how we create a stronger community in and out of the fitness world. Jen hit on this one, and it is connect. Connect with those who understand where you are and can support you and hold you accountable in a way that resonates with you. Your BFF may not be the best person to hold you accountable about your business right now. Different circles require different things. I have different friends. If I want somebody to feel sorry for me, I know who to go to. If I want someone to help me with a resource, I know who to go to. If I want someone to tell me to get over myself and get moving, I know who to go to. And so your circles are going to be different, and it's okay to have different circles. It's actually great to have more than one because sometimes people just aren't available. The last one, harness the strength you know you possess to push through. Again, the past is a place of reference. You've been down before. It may not have looked like this, but you've been down before and now you're standing. And because you know that, then you know the capacity is in you to step up to the challenge that this presents, and come out better on the other side. You are stronger, and it sounds very cliche and woo-woo-ish, but you are stronger than what is trying to bring you down. COVID-19 will come and go, but if you plan to be here to stay, then you have got to dig deep and find that place that you know you can pull out of this. You're not going to just survive, you're going to thrive out of it. Those are your marching orders. I want to share the call of action with you. And again, Sergeant Ken references, but if you've ever heard of Kaizen steps, it's that little itty bitty teeny little thing that you can do. And I want you to think about one step you can take moving forward, literally after we end this call. Don't wait. Maybe that is take the notes and read them all the way through. Maybe it is make the phone call you've been avoiding. Maybe it is do the text. Maybe it is pull your calendar out and write, my self-loathing ends today. As you say that, I want you to think about the step that you take. How does it feel in your body? When I say, when I leave this video and I do X, Y, Z, how does it feel in my soul? And when that connects, then you know you're on the path to what's next for you. And I'm here for it. Like, I cannot wait to see all the greatness that is coming out of here. Hope is an entire vibe, y'all. And you can take that and spread it, but you have to believe in it first.
Love it, Tasha. Tasha, I want you to stay on with me because, you know, I've been also monitoring along with Joseph on the things that have been coming in on the chat bar. And I, you know, I think Joseph wanted me to see that we've got someone that typed in from Bermuda, Yves Paul. He says, you know, he says, relinquish the need for what? Can you elaborate on that just for a moment?
Yes. So relinquish the need for perfectionism. Feeling like that you can't do it or it is not acceptable if it's not perfect. That's what sticks us in analysis paralysis. Like we're thinking about it so hard that we never move. Think about moving and don't worry about what it looks like. It will turn out to be exactly what it's supposed to be. It always does.
Absolutely amazing. Just exactly what I thought you would do. So we're running nearly on schedule, and this is amazing. All of you have such amazing contributions. We're going to bring on our next speaker, and then, you know, if you have other really something that resonated with you and you want to make certain that you ask that question, you can either go to that chat bar again, or we can address those questions at the end, because we want to have a little Q&A at the end, because this is designed to be more interactive than it is just, hey, pre-recorded, watch this, here's some notes, you know, go live your life. We want to make certain that we have the chance to like Yvez Paul just typed in and we elaborated on, let's really break this down and how it applies to us. So Michaela, what an amazing background. And since the COVID crisis, this woman has created a full schedule, an amazing full schedule of classes. And if you go to her Facebook page, she's just loaded with things. She's teaching every single day, multiple classes. I don't know how she does it. And she does it. And then I want to point out one thing that she did that really cracked me up, because this is supposed to be more personal and more advanced than we did on April 3rd. And so Michaela had this one thing. She was teaching some kickboxing moves, you know, and her daughter walks right in the background and freezes, and her daughter realizes, I'm in the shot, and then she just goes, just go, it's okay. And then she went right back to teaching the class like she had never missed a beat. So without further ado, Michaela, take the wheel.
Thank you so much for the intro. Does that sound kind of familiar to everyone, right? We're just kind of trying to get it done and do what we do and living our lives, but also we're stuck at our home and we're living our lives and teaching our classes and our kids are in the background. And the fact of the matter is, she almost got kicked in the face in that moment. And it is a good thing that I have pretty good spatial awareness. So you're welcome. But anyway, I'm really happy to be here. I'm glad to see all of you. This is amazing. I'm happy to hear my colleagues speak. That was really wonderful. And I'm so happy to see everyone who is here watching and listening. I think we all have so much to learn from each other, so much to contribute. So this is really fabulous. Thanks for putting it all together, Sergeant Ken. I want to get started today talking about another flower. Remember last time we met, I spoke about the lotus blossom. And this time I want to speak about the bird of paradise. So another beautiful tropical flower, and another yoga posture. So this one is a posture, or this story about the bird of paradise I learned about while I was in the posture. And if you know this posture, it's a balancing posture and it's pretty complicated. So I'm learning about it as I'm kind of wobbling and trying to focus and also hearing about this posture. And it really stuck with me. So I'll tell you about it. It's in your notes if you want to follow along. But part of nature's design is that this beautiful top-heavy plant splits its leaves so that the wind can pass through it without bending, breaking, or uprooting it. So I thought that was really interesting because I have a flower or a leaf here with me. I actually just keep this in my home as decor. I didn't go out and buy one, but I think it's a beautiful thing. And you can see that if it didn't split the leaf, it would be almost like a huge sail in the wind, and it would take the flower down right away if a wind came gusting by. And if it was like a hurricane style torrential wind, that flower really would not stand a chance. So this just goes to show how we can all adapt to our situations, just like plants and animals and humans have done through time. And that's what I see happening all around me right now. I see people adapting to this storm around them. And it's not kind of that slow process through billions of years like usually happens through evolution, but it's rapid and it's intense and it's urgent, as my friend Victoria used that word today. I thought that was a great word. So I want to pose this question for you to think about as I talk. How can you allow for the storm to happen around you without destroying you? And how can you stay grounded, present, steadfast, and unbroken in challenging times? And I think that's a question that we're all wrestling with inside of us all the time right now. So I want to focus on emotional intelligence, otherwise known as emotional quotient or EQ, which is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, to communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. So I think those are all skills that we use all the time, every day, and we don't even think about it. We just do it because it comes naturally to us, and we need these skills. We don't need to wait for a hurricane or a pandemic to access and utilize these necessary skills. So the following 5 competencies are considered to be the key components of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So people with these skills have integrity and resilience. They are honest. They have high levels of commitment, and they can influence without positional authority and show positive emotional energy. So does that sound like a fitness professional? It sounds like every fitness professional I know. So this emotional fitness can also determine how you respond when you meet an obstacle. Do you fall apart at the seams, or are you able to bounce back, ready and willing to meet that obstacle, face that obstacle head on? So I want to share with you my experience as Sergeant Ken was telling you, that I've tried to figure out how am I going to continue doing what I do, what I love, what I'm passionate about, now that we can't be together physically, and now that I'm living in isolation in my home. So this is a temporary, I think, thing, but it's also maybe changing the way people think about what's safe. So even after my gym opens up again, I'm probably not going to be able to do group fitness special events, which is mainly my bread and butter, in the way that I used to do that, where we pack in as many people as we can, we get as close together, and we do really, really sweaty things. And basically people are just sweating on top of each other and like high-fiving each other. And it was so fun. And I'm really gonna miss it if we're not able to do it anymore. But I don't know that I would feel comfortable doing that. So I've got to come up with another plan, and then we'll do that instead. So I've been coming up with this schedule because I program group fitness, and I'm teaching all the classes. I'm teaching 2 or 3 classes a day. And I'm just trying to figure out right now what works, what doesn't work. I'm taking a lot of classes in between. I'm watching other people. I'm trying to watch and grow and learn and try and fail and try again. I'm hearing a lot of people say things like fail forward and think outside the box. And that's what we're all doing. And I'm really inspired by other people who are doing this as well, because it's really scary and really unnerving, and you have to have a lot of, guts and gumption to do this kind of thing. So for everyone who's doing this, I mean, power to you. It's like creepy and scary sometimes, but you don't even know who's watching you or if anyone's watching you sometimes, and you're like, let's go. But we are doing it because it's important, and it's so worthwhile to figure out how we're going to keep doing this thing that's so important to us and we love so much. So, I mean, to just build on that a little bit too, I see people who are not in our profession, parents who, if you asked them a month ago, would you be willing to homeschool your child, and do you think you'd be good at that? Never in a million years would they say they'd be willing to try that. And now they're doing it every day, and they're figuring out a schedule, and they're not only surviving, but they're thriving in that role. And I just think that that's so amazing. And I see people figuring things out because they have to, and they're just doing such a great job with it. And it's amazing to me. And it makes me so inspired. So I want to talk about the abundance versus scarcity mindset. And I have it on your notes if you want to follow along. But this is a mindset because it's not either or. It's not about what is real. It's just about how you perceive things. So you could either think there is not enough to go around, or you could think there is more than enough to go around. And it's just about how you think and perceive. You could think, I need to make sure I look good if I'm to succeed. Or you could think, if I succeed and you succeed, we all succeed. I can't afford to do X, or I can afford to do X instead. I am reluctant to contribute and share information, resources, and time. I am open to collaborating and sharing what is required. I have all the answers. I am willing to learn from others. I promote only myself and my accomplishments. I promote others and their accomplishments. I dictate and micromanage. I'm open and I trust. So you can see these are different kinds of ways of thinking about how you're going to take and hoard for yourself, or how you're going to share and be open to giving to other people. And when you're open to collaboration and learning from other people, there's always more. So you could have one kind of viewpoint and it's, you think you're keeping it all for yourself, but really you're just letting everything go right through your fingertips. So I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. And it goes right along with just having an attitude of gratitude. There's always more, really, more ideas, more customers, more to learn, more ways to connect and grow together. So I want to really put this towards you now. We've been thinking about all this time, how do we weather the storm? So I've got my eye on the chat now, and I want to ask the audience, what are some examples of ways that you've used emotional intelligence to adapt and evolve during this time, rather than getting destroyed by the storm surrounding you? So that kind of rapid evolution. So I'm going to keep an eye on the chat here and see if you guys are coming up with some ideas. Very familiar with the sweaty high fives, says Victoria. Miss it so much. And also Victoria wrote on my Facebook, because I put this out on the Facebook post earlier. And so Victoria is actually not a fitness professional. She's a beautician, a beauty bridal business. Remind me what you call it, Victoria. I always say the wrong thing. So she's a beauty artist, makeup artist. I'm always saying the wrong thing. Makeup artist. And she has a professional makeup artist. Thank you. And she has a thriving business, which she's worked for so many years to build up. And she finally got to the point where she was working all on her own. She's having a lot of bridal customers coming to her to do her makeup, do their makeup. And then this hit, and you can imagine she's working 6 inches away from people's face to face. And she lost 75% of her business, which was all just starting in May, because that's when the wedding season starts. And she said to herself, it hit me like a freight train. That's what she wrote in this. That really was a word that struck me. And I feel like that's how it felt to me as well. So it's interesting how you can be in separate industries, but have a really similar kind of universal feeling to all of this. You can be in the restaurant industry or the makeup industry or some other kind of business and have a very similar sensation of how this is affecting you. And so she was really upset by how this affected her business. And she said, I am someone who has an extreme urgency when it comes to being successful and driving business. And I had to find an alternative. So she also went to an online platform and tried to figure out some alternative solutions to keeping her business active and continuing to make income. And her last thing she said was, something that's been helping me stay sane, though, is continuing to practice gratitude. So thank you so much for sharing that, Victoria. That's really beautiful. Katie Craig is another person who shared on Facebook with me. And Katie also is not a fitness professional, but she's here with us tonight. Katie is a mental health therapist, and her work is also human-to-human connection. And so for her, it's been really hard to not be face-to-face with her clients. And she's worried that it's also very difficult for them not to be faced with her. But she's worked to become a telehealth therapist and make herself available through telephone. So I think that that's such an amazing thing to offer. And she finished by saying that to be doing this at this time to remain sane, she's practicing self-forgiveness. So very similar to what Tasha was talking about, how important that is. I also wanted to say my mother-in-law is also a mental health therapist. And she's been doing Zoom conferences with her clients, which makes me just amazed because she's super not technologically savvy at all. And I'm so surprised / amazed that she's able to do this. So I think it's so important to like, I don't know, just recognize that like if she can do that, like literally anyone can do that. So thinking about how to go outside of your comfort zone, really, to think about how to continue doing what you need to do and what you love to do. Steve Feinberg, giving blood. Wow. Yes, amazing. That's really a huge contribution to the world right now, if you're capable and you're able. Shelly says, I journal every day, gratitude journal, bedside night before going to bed. I'm manifesting what I want for the future. It's coming. Yes, it is, Shelly. And Patty Lamp says, connecting with people and asking how I can help. So important. Thinking about other people besides yourself, and just that what goes around comes around, right? And connecting with people is so important right now for all of us. Amanda Brush says, naming exactly what I am feeling or experiencing and then working through it. Being okay with having up days and down days and making sure that I am moving first thing in the morning. So that's so important. And just being able to name your emotions and being with those emotions, whether it's a good emotion or a bad emotion. And Amanda Lynch also commented on Facebook and really opened up about feeling some kind of negative things and being able to name them and be with them and being okay with that. So thank you all so much for contributing and for being able to share that. That's so brave and so helpful because we're all experiencing this. Really, we're all experiencing the same stuff. And in a certain way, it's unique. And in a certain way, it's totally universal. So that's really amazing. Something I want to share with you really quick, just so we can get up and move for a second. Let's all stand up. Because I am a yoga teacher.
I'm already standing, girl.
Thanks, Sergeant. All right, so stand up, and we're just going to do a balancing posture really quick. So I'm going to move this down so you can see me. So stand on your right foot, and then lift up your left leg. So just practicing balancing a moment, just like a flower. Then cross your ankle over your thigh and bring your hands to your heart. So this posture challenges you to find focus here and stay upright, stay steady. And hopefully it's, not super windy where you are. You're probably inside your house. It looks like one of you is outside. Good for you. Getting out there. Good. Let's take one more breath here. This is a good hip opening posture too. Really good for your joints. And then let's get back up and step the leg down. We'll change it up. So lift up the leg, get your balance, and then cross your ankle over your thigh, bring your palms together to your heart, and shift your hips back. And just take a moment here to breathe. This is Ekapada Utkatasana, one-legged chair pose or figure four. It's a great way to get centered and focused. Literally balancing and staying upright and steady. And come back up and step your feet down, relax. And you can finally sit back down, or if you like, stay standing. Some people say sitting is the new smoking, so maybe you'd like to stay up. So that was great. I hope you feel better after a lot of sitting to get up a little bit and move. So my call to action to you is just to believe in yourself and your ability to adapt and evolve to survive this situation. We can all be like the bird of paradise to make those changes that are necessary to weather the storm. So my mantra that I'll share with you is, I am enough. And the yama, the Yoga Sutra I'll share with you is santosha, contentment. Have a great night.
Isn't this team amazing? Whoa! Oh my goodness, just amazing, just amazing. I love how Wendy chimed in from Canada. She says, adaptation for resilience. Absolutely brilliant, Michaela. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Elizabeth. Let me tell you about Elizabeth, because Elizabeth, you read plenty again from the handout, but let me tell you something about Elizabeth. Okay, so every single year, my wife and I, we invest a certain sum of money so that we can have our own professional development. It's just something that we do because, really, what does it mean to be a master instructor or a black belt? It means being a good student. And so in order to do that, we have to have more. The more we have in us is the more we can have to offer others, okay? And so what we do is we go to as many certifications as possible, whether it's in life coaching, resilience training, fitness, nutrition, you name it, okay? And it's really interesting, though. I've gone to so many of them in the last several years, and Elizabeth has been at every single one. Now, it wasn't that that she was stalking me. I felt like I was stalking her because she was already there, because most of the time she was already contributing to the speakers up there, either leading or assisting. It's just, that's how amazing she is. So without further ado, let's give the floor to Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be back with you. I'm loving listening to everyone. And before I begin, there is so much synchronicity happening because we've all planned our presentations individually, yet it's the wildest, coolest thing to feel how they're all meshing together. So what I'm going to do with you is be my call to action, I should say, is actually going to happen throughout the entire time that I speak with you. So I'll invite you to use the chat to type in, or if you have a pen and paper in your hand, write them down. You will have a bunch of things to think about, and maybe you won't be able to answer all the questions while we chit chat right now, but I'd love for you to go through these and finish them up by midweek. Part of my background is in education and counseling, and my inner guidance counselor is on fire this week, and that's exactly what we're going to go through today, is find ways where I can get you to almost reverse engineer what we're feeling right now. And we're hearing all these great ideas talking about how our resilience is important and how we need to care for our bodies and take care of our emotions. I'm going to take that back even a little bit further and ask you some questions for you to either journal on or think about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your purpose. And Jen's done a great job, Sergeant Ken has done a great job of talking about this with you. When I spoke with you last week, it was an emotional thing when I shared purpose. My purpose is to honor my mother and to be her legacy. So that, I can't even say that without getting goosebumps. So that always lights my fire. We talked last time about purpose and meaning and how these things are actually found in the moments. So if you're fighting to find purpose through all of this, don't think of it as one thing or your sole purpose in life. That's really, really big. What purpose have you found in one single moment? Something that's lit you up a little bit where you've been like, oh my gosh, that just felt amazing. Notice what makes you feel expanded, where there's joy, where there's intrigue, and the things where you're like, no, that's so not my thing. I'm not feeling that at all. What pain point or what problem do you think that you can solve? Because you know you can. As Michaela just said, you've had to figure out how to either homeschool or get your job done from home. So you've already, in the middle of this, figured out that there's so much more to you. So I'm going to ask you to think for just a second, what pain point is there that you can offer healing or a solution to? And you can type that in, or you can go ahead and write that down. And I'm going to keep talking through this for the sake of time. So once you figure that out, or if you're still in the midst of figuring that out, your first call to action is to name 3 people that you've helped. Maybe it's yourself. You're a person, you count very much. 3 people that you've helped. How did you help them? And how did that feel? You can pop anything in the chat or keep writing it down, and I'm going to keep going. The second call to action underneath our purpose is thinking about moments that, this is as my puppy comes up, thinking about moments that you're grateful for. Can you replicate that feeling? I kind of laugh a little bit about people getting annoyed with network marketers, for example. I could let people, whatever people want to do is great. And the reason I bring that up is it's replicatable. So if someone is in network marketing, MLMs, they're replicating something. If you are an instructor and you are teaching a class that's pre-choreographed, if you're a master trainer and you are teaching a certification, you are providing a service and a piece of information, maybe a lot of information, that's replicatable. I want you to reel that back in just a little bit and think about how you can replicate something that you felt grateful for. Would this feeling, would this vibe, would this help others? So you're going to start to link in and think about all of these things, and then your purpose starts to become a little bit more clear. The next thing we want to talk about is power. And I'll remind you from last time, your true power is already in you. It's in you, you guys, and it comes from within. When we can work towards acceptance, we find our power, like there's major power. If we acknowledge our fears, if we can acknowledge what has changed, I'm an emotional person, I'm with you, Michaela, we've got to grieve, we have to acknowledge those feelings, and I sit with them, I'm here, those things are okay, embrace them, because when we're in the middle of that mess, those are some of the times when we have the biggest breakthroughs. And if you go through these exercises with me, I'm hoping you have those breakthroughs as well. Once we accept the circumstance that we're in, that's when that's when we can take our action. So here are your next calls to actions. You're not going to give up your power. I'm not going to let you. I'll stalk you on social media. You're not going to give up. Take it back. And do that loud and proud. Put on some stilettos and some lipstick, whatever you need to do. But take that back now. And I want you to think about, write in the chat or on your notes, what are your 3 superpowers? And my hope is that you're like, 3? Just 3? Is that all I can write down? But I want at least 3 of your superpowers. And once you know, embracing my fear and harnessing my power, yes. Well, I'm pretty sure, Candace, that there's somebody else out there who is trying to figure out how to embrace his or her own fear. That's a superpower right there. So now what I want you to do is share your superpowers. Those are your gifts, whether you believe in God, spirit, universe, source, whatever it is. Those are your gifts and your superpowers. Name 3 ways you can share them. I love this, Laura. Persistence, passion, transparency, empathy, grit, honor. How can you share those things? I started this exercise off in your purpose by saying, what pain point can you offer healing or solution to? So now I'm teaching you how to use your superpowers. They're already in you. The third point is poise. I love poise. And it's not just having to do with dance or ballet. In terms of poise, we get to choose, number one, if we're going to show up. Number two, we get to choose how we're going to show up. And number three, we get to choose what that looks like. I brought this up in our last webisode, and now I'm going to ask you to actually act upon it and dive in. Make a list of people with whom you've had relationships, good, bad, ugly, past, present. Everything is a part of who you are. All of that is part of your creation. What are the things that you would go to those people for? So this links in beautifully to what Tasha was saying, right? So you know who you need to go to. You know, even if I look at our group of speakers today and everyone has so many marvelous attributes, but like off the top of my head, I know if I have a social media question, she can do a million different things, but you know, Jen's my girl. I mean, she's great. Right? If I'm like, oh, I need help with yoga, which is not my strength, I've got Michaela right here. Sergeant Ken, like resilience, like help me get my emotional mindset like back in check. Okay? So make a list of all these people and who do you go for? What do you like about them? Who can you emulate? So if you, for example, say, you know, Sergeant Ken is resilient and he's in charge, well, is that something that you admire and respect? Will that help you deliver your superpowers? Awesome. So when you're having that moment where you're like, I am a hot mess and I can't pull it together, then I want you to think of that person who is resilient. If you're having that moment where you know that you need a lot of empathy, I mean, we've got Michaela just talked about that. So now you're starting to craft, who is it that you want to be? And how is it that you can call upon past experiences and ignite that massive fire that's going to help you change everyone and everything who needs you, because you're speaking to that pain point. So you're going to list positive qualities about all of these people. And then the last piece that we'll talk about, and I'm kind of going through this quickly for the sake of time, is to remind you that you are the CEO. And if you're in group exercise training camp with Elizabeth, rule number 1 is own the room. So I'm going to ask you to own the fact that you are the CEO. If that means you're going to pop your chest out, you're going to have oh, look, I have my hope. Can you see that? Can you see it? It says hope. That's my coffee cup from this morning I wanted to share. Is that going to be, you know, your thing that you remember? But you're going to own the room, and then you're going to act like it. You're going to go back through your list on those days when you don't think you can, and you're like, I need empathy. Who do I think of with a lot of empathy? Who do I think of for resilience? Irene McCormick is a friend of mine, and when I think of her, I think like, I tell her this all the time, I think regal and royalty, like she carries herself in this way. And I'm like, when I have to pull it together, I'm like, I channel a lot of these people. Then I want you to think about establishing your board of directors. So you've got to own that you're the CEO. You've got to act like it. But you are not, yeah, you're the CEO of your lives, absolutely. You are not here alone, just as we have a panel. So again, synchronicity, Sergeant Ken said at the beginning, he's like, you know, he could have done this on his own, but he wanted to pull other people in, and none of us are the end all be all, and you shouldn't put that pressure on yourself. We are so much better together. So when you establish your board of directors, know that you always have a role on the team. You probably have a million skill sets, but on each particular team, you have that 1 or 2 roles that put you and elevate you in a space where everyone is like, oh, we so need you for this right now. This is your collaboratory, right? This is your support system. So like Tasha said, you know, I know who I go to. If we need someone to say, oh, Elizabeth, I feel you, girl, you're working so hard. I know who I'm going to get that from. And if I need someone to say, girl, you need to get your stuff together and you just need to like work. Yeah, I know who's going to give me that tough love too. These are the people on your board. And if you go in a little further, so, you know, if we say most of us, not all of us, but we're helpers of some type, right? We're in the fitness industry, we're in other types of industries, and we're like, well, how do I do this? I am not your queen of technology. When my car starts, I am one excited woman, right? So I know that in order for me to figure out Zoom and everything else, I need someone who's great at technology on my board of directors, right? I sure do. When I need to figure out, like, wow, like I need to know a little bit more about yoga because it's a piece of a program that I run, then I know that on that team, I'm going to bring in people who specialize in yoga. So just to give you some examples of how you create that board. So you started with your purpose, which you found in your moments. And then you started to think about where you expanded and where you contracted. And then your power, those are your superpowers, those gifts that you have. And you're like, I do not know what to do with these things. Well, now you do, because if you read through these comments right here, right now, like some people are coming at this from more of a passionate place. People are talking about empathy. People are talking about kings and queens and CEOs. What pain point can you use, right? Your superpowers to help solve and offer healing. You get to show how you, or get to choose how you show up, what it looks like. You're going to channel the people who you want to emulate. And I'll wrap it back up with remembering that you're the CEO of everything that you do. And nobody wants you to do it on your own. Your board of directors that I want you to start to establish are going to be the people that help you get the job done. You do not have to be the queen or king of everything. You have a panel of rock stars here today. You have, look at this feed blowing up right now. You've got people who want to connect and communicate with you. So don't think because I'm speaking today that I have all the answers. There are some extraordinary people in this chat right now that I bet would be on your board if you invited them. So I will leave you with that. And the last piece is, remember who your soul family is. Those people that you know that you can always count on, that are always going to make you feel like you're at home. And those people should be at the top of your board of directors. So thank you so much. I'm here for you.
Wow. 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 Look, there are so many things that that Elizabeth said that resonated with you, and it's evident by looking at these messages that are coming on in that chat bar. Just absolutely amazing. And I love her last part there about, you know, creating that inner circle, because, you know, that's something that you know, I talked with Gilbert about when we were doing our program in Beirut, Lebanon. You know, I say, hey, look, having a team at my side doesn't compete with me, it completes me. Oh my goodness, you are amazing. All right, so let's bring on that next speaker, Steve in New York. I'm going to unmute you right now, and we're going to pin you. Let me tell you a little bit about Steve that's beyond his incredible bio, is that he's sort of like my travel family, because every time that I've gone to speak at SCW conferences, no matter where they are in the world, Steve has been this guy that that was always improvising to make it work for the members' experience. And here's what I mean by that. This guy would go to a hotel, and it may be that they messed up the room that he was going to be in, and he winds up doing an 8-hour certification in the hallway. I don't think anyone's had to deal with things like that, what he's dealt with in the most peculiar environments, and make it work, because the reviews have always been amazing. So, my buddy, my pal, the spotlight is on you.
Thank you, Sergeant. HOOAH! Thank you, everybody. I have to say that I appreciate this normalcy and this exchange, just having everyone here. So I want to express gratitude. Instead of at the end of thanking everyone for participating, I want to start in my beginning and say thank you. Genuinely thank you. And also, I have to say how proud I am of Michaela Woodall and your next speaker, Linz Schiller, who are both my mentees. It is such a privilege to present with my people. And a lot of the things that Linz is going to talk about to bring us home, I want you to remember some of the things I've said in my presentation here. Now, if you missed the first one, I know I'm running on a clock, so I am going to endeavor to get us closer to ending on time by being concise but clear. I talked about a lot of things, but one of the main things that I talked about was being collaborative, not competitive, which we've now covered. We talked about in the face of fear, how to behave. I'm going to be focusing on fear today because I am not afraid of fear, and I am not afraid to say that I'm afraid, and I don't fear shame, and I don't hope shame. So I want to start with a little hope. I want you to know that from the epicenter of New York City, where 5 blocks from me, there are camps of people being treated in tents for COVID because we're so overwhelmed. We are lower in our loss of life today, and we are lower in our hospital occupations. We are lower in confirmed and tested cases than we have been yet. And the CDC is saying, as goes New York, will go the country if everyone behaves appropriately. So stay hopeful and stay healthy and stay optimistic because we are moving in the right direction. Okay, know that first of all. And I want you to know that from here, from a place where to go for a jog, I have to put a mask on that has a filter on it, which I don't do often because I have an 8-month-old son. I hope you guys are lucky to see him soon. So we're going to focus on recapping very quickly my story, my personal firing and hiring that changed my life in the fear cycle and the difference between faithful fear, which can be your friend, and panicked paralysis. So panic is obviously our enemy, and pandemics do cause panic. I was on track to be a part owner of a facility that had a chain that had increased from 2 to 5 locations under my very young tenure. And I was super excited. And there are a lot of sad tales that I can tell you about my life, but this is the most directly applicable to what we're experiencing now. On a quiet Friday night, that entire opportunity was taken from me because I asked for what I wanted, what I deserved, and what I was promised from my owner, who would have been my co-owner in this venture. As I had trained for the expansion of the business, had helped build up, had trained employees all by 22, had set income records across the country for monthly net and monthly gross in my school. I was followed around to get my stuff. I was not allowed to communicate with students who I had seen report cards for, taken to movies, had overnight training sessions, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, had presided over their health, their hurts, their blood, sweat, and tears, their parents' complete faith and total trust. And my life was instantly ripped out from under me, and I had no idea what direction was next. So I'll admit, as was my way once upon a time, which we talked about last time, being comfortable with admitting and saying so, I had lost my way, and I gave into panic, and I gave into poor habits, and I let myself drown myself for a few days. And then I woke up, and I realized that although I was afraid of the unknown, which is what was next, I had to move forward. 3 days. Could have been 3 weeks, could have been 3 months, and I'd be telling that story, and that would be okay right now. I'm glad you empathize, Shelley. It's difficult, but yet, in the face of that kind of fear, you have to focus on expansion and progression, even during a pandemic. Had that worked out, I wouldn't be here with you now. I'd be owner of a chain or possibly just a quiet martial arts school, and I'd be happy teaching children and adults for the rest of my life. But I'm really glad my life is here now with you. So 2 highlighted quotes that are sort of in stark contrast that I want to go over. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. It's from FDR. Now, I find that to be temporarily very motivating and incredibly inspiring, but totally incorrect. There are plenty of things to fear, not just fear itself. There are classifications of fear, and fear is real, and we're allowed to experience it. It's okay to say it. As a matter of fact, it's essential to say that you're afraid when things rapidly change. Fear is not always bad. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's Nelson Mandela. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. I find this to be correct. This is my belief system. I dig into it wholeheartedly, 100%. And I will tell you that although momentarily on the battlefield, fearlessness is important and essential, or possibly with 2 seconds left on the 1 yard line in the fourth quarter when you have to go for it because you're 6 behind and you got to get in the end zone. Okay, you've got to practice a little fearlessness because it's one moment that rules the rest of your life. But we have some time here. COVID has given us time, given us the ability to think things out a little bit, which is wonderful. Think things out and think things through. So there are 2 main categories of fear I want to talk about tonight. One is fear of the unknown. And the truth is, it exists. It can be dark, scary, ugly place. But the only way out is through. Because fear of the unknown is unhealthy and counterproductive. And there's no way around it. You just have to live through it. So give yourself permission to do that, first of all. As an entrepreneur who has succeeded and failed several brands, I know the fear of the unknown. I've lived on the razor's edge with my money and my time and my wherewithal and other people's best interest in mind in a 20-something year career, starting at 19 years old. So that's fear of the unknown. Then there's number 2, specific actions and consequences. Now that's healthy because that gives you the consideration of causality and culpability. It lets you consider what your next moves are and how they will affect you and others in your business. And that is, in my opinion, a healthy part of any CEO of their own lives, Ms. Lennart, any CEO's thought process. Are you culpable? What will the cause and effect be if certain decisions are made where fearlessness could be dangerous? So now let's explore the virtues of fear. Now I like to give him a name, and I love Rocky, so I call him Frankie Fear. You know, Frankie Fear, the fighter's friend. Why is fear good for a fighter, and why is it good for a business owner and for what we do? Well, there's a virtue to the visual, first of all. I want to talk about how you change your perspective, your personal perspective. You can picture chaos, or you can picture Casper. Casper is the friendly ghost, and he's scared plenty of people by accident in his cartoons and his comic books, but he never had negative intentions. Very often he was trying to stop someone from tripping down the stairs or missing the beam or sitting on the wrong chair. So I like to reduce fear to a friendly face, and that's something that you can absolutely do. Very, very easy, okay? Once you've done that, you have to look at fear and what its function is to a fighter, and also how it functions in a parallel point of view to a business owner. Fear makes fighters sharp. Fear makes fighters smart. Sergeant Ken will be happy to echo my sentiments on this subject, is my guess. Fear keeps your head off the line. Fear makes sure, although you're calm in the face of the storm because you're going to triumph over that fear, showing courage, not fearlessness, not fearful, but fear conscious, you're going to make sure that you're not getting hit with stray punches if you are a smart pattern boxer. Now, that's the same thing with thinking ahead and looking forward as a business owner and doing what we do. We have to be willing to pivot. We have to be willing to ATM, abandon the mission if something is not creating the energy that we want. We have to be able to diversify, like Jen Hall talked about. Different streams of income, different thought process of how to use your time. You have the time, you can see forward. You have to have your 1,000-mile view. You have to see the forest and you have to see the trees. You have to be able to see both, far distance. And then we talk about defining tactics versus strategy, okay? What is a tactic? What is our overall strategy? If we think about from both perspectives, ring tactics are, if someone X's, I'm going to Y. Okay, a ring tactic is I'm going to go out there, I'm going to stick a long jab, I'm going to keep my distance on the outside of the rim, showing ring generalship on the rim of the circle, staying on the radius, and I'm going to pick and choose my spots. When they load up a left hook, I will throw a right hand. I will be able to do that, or I make them miss and I make them pay. That's the counter-punching hitbox way. That's what we do. Strategy is your overall thought process. How do you see your business in 5 years? Where is your baby, this business that is worth making? Because again, just as a reminder, we're not talking about creating a Band-Aid here. The new normal is going to require some adjustments overall. So you have to be able to separate your tactics and your strategy. Tactics are your short term. Then your long range decision making is your strategy. Which is more crucial, when and why? Well, personally, I'd prioritize my actions if I were you. I would prioritize survival first, survival income, pay the rent, feed the kids, take care of your neighbor. Okay, those are the immediate short-term tactics. Going live as fast as you can, transforming your entire living room, your small New York studio, living room apartment into a virtual studio with multiple camera angles, like you're going to hear from Lindsay Schiller about. It's something that you just have to be proactive. Tactics are proactive. Strategy is also proactive, but it allows you time to see the blows coming. That's a different story. So survival's first. Progression is second. What are you already doing well, and how can you progress what you're doing well? And then expansion. How can you diversify and increase your bandwidth? How can you increase your influence? How can you be more helpful along the line, and hopefully also create more new strains of income, more different ways for you to support yourself and your family and to do more good things. There is always something you can be doing from the above choices to be proactive and productive. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter how difficult our lost income is, which, believe me, I'm in a bit of the medical side of one-on-one fitness, and my clients require my hands on them to a degree. I have lost a large part of my income, and I'm learning to replace it for the future and looking forward, believe me, to having it back. So is my son, so is my wife. But how you feel about you in those moments is direct effect of your productivity. So sure, you may be doing something that's not bringing in direct dollars, but can you still do something to move your entire situation forward? Yes, you can. I just got a book deal. I'm going to be writing my book. Do you think I haven't started writing notes over the last couple of years on a subject that's near and dear to me? Of course I have. Of course I'm part way done already. If you don't have a deal, have you thought about writing a book? Are you writing down your thoughts? Are you authoring your thoughts? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you prepare for your inevitable success if it's something that you believe you'll be able to do? Why not? 3 a.m. strategy notes. Have you woken up as an entrepreneur at 3 something in the morning and not written something down on a notepad or your phone that became a crucial decision maker later? If you haven't yet, and you wake up and you have trouble sleeping, just get up and scribe it. Trust me. Unload it from your brain. 1, so it doesn't disappear, okay? And 2, so that you can feel good, because you'll feel good about getting it out of your head, and you will go to sleep and you'll go further into REM. You'll sleep better and you'll sleep longer. Thank you, Shelley. 5 a.m. run. Sometimes you just got to get out there, and it may not be your hour. 1 a.m. run when you're on a trip and you have a seminar the next day. Sometimes you just have to burn off some energy. Go burn it off. Writing choreography that you don't need for a program that you're not up to writing yet. Volume 3 of something you're on volume 1 of. You've already written volume 2. Be productive. Love it. Live it. Fear, here's my summation, is a functional expression of amortized responses. Whether the scorekeeping is in punches landed or profits made, there are amortized responses to different stimulus. Make sure you train your responses in business the way one is taught to train reflexes in fighting, with the right balance of fear and courage in mind. And with that, and with gratitude, I'm going to hand it back to Sergeant Ken so we can move on to our last speaker. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you.
Don't you love this guy? I mean, don't you love the entire panel? Oh my goodness. This is just so good when our friends come together just for a night of inspiration and hope. You're amazing, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Steve introduced me to his colleague. And what happened is that we were building additional people for the next few teams, because we don't want to burn out the current leadership team. There's 5 or 6 of us in that current leadership team, and we wanted to be able to rotate them in. And so each team is going to be doing 2 consecutive webinars that are 2 weeks apart approximately. And so he says, well, I got this girl. And then so she called me up before I could call her. And you've ever had these conversations with someone that you just met that it clicked so much that you looked at your watch and you realized it was an hour and 45 minutes later and you're still talking, and you didn't feel like any time has passed by at all. That's Lindsay. And what Lindsay's been able to do with her business since the COVID crisis took us by control has been absolutely amazing, because she not only is really accomplished as a fitness instructor, but she's also got mindset training and resilience training, positive psychology, and she's done it in such a short period of time. She's also, hired a social media community manager that's also on, this call right now. And because her business is just thriving right now. And so without further ado, I want to introduce you to our newest leader member of this entire project, HOOAH, Help Other People Endure. Lindsay, not sure where you are in this panel. Go ahead and unmute yourself and
right here.
Okay, I'll find you and I'll ping you. Go ahead, start speaking.
Well, first of all, I am a little taken aback by that. And of course, Steve is an honor of an act to follow. So by both of you, I think I might need a minute to catch my breath before beginning anyway. Oh, you found me. You found me. Thank you. Thank you. So, first, in the Jewish faith, we have something that is called an aliyat neshama, which means the dedication of an act or a talk or a class to elevate someone's soul who has passed on. So may this be an aliyat neshama to my father, Muni ben Yosef v'Yehudit Jeffrey Schiller. It was just a few days before New Year's Eve 2008, and I woke up like any other morning, about to go on my commute to New York City for a days full of dancing. And Dad left the TV on in the den again. But something told me before I got to the door to turn around and go check. So I checked the den, I checked the bedroom, and then I knocked on the bathroom door. And my dad was laying on the ground with his head like propped up against the cabinet, and he could talk, but his jaw was all clenched, and he didn't want me to call 911. But of course he couldn't get up, and I did. But he was calm and he was in good spirits, and I just thought everything was going to be okay. And they came and they said they thought he had a stroke. And I didn't know what that meant. So my life changed from daily dance training to hospital visits, doctor visits, and trying to do dance style workouts on Comcast when I could find the time. I would watch TED Talks from a neuroscientist who knew when she was having a stroke, she was consciously aware of it and then able to fully recover. So, then she could go on TED to talk about it. And I poured myself into books like Kirk Douglas's My Stroke of Luck. And my favorite one was the book that I geeked out on neuroplasticity. It's called The Brain That Changes Yourself. The brain that changes itself. Because no matter what the doctor said, I believed my dad was going to have a full recovery. Fast forward 11 months, we had a family meeting where they made it very clear that Dad wasn't going to get any better and he had to go into assisted living. And that meant I had to leave school, get a job, and eventually find a new place to live, since we'd also be losing the house. It was terrifying, and I felt like the ground had been ripped out from underneath me and my whole world had been turned upside down. I was lucky enough to find a holiday seasonal job, and some days lived off of 25-cent bananas and 55-cent coffee refills from Starbucks. I barely made enough money for my commute, let alone food. So my question, is, did anyone feel the anxiety in the air the week before your city shut down? Or is anyone feeling that now? And I actually want to pause and take a moment to scroll through the gallery and see your eyes. Yeah. Amazing. So I noticed that feeling the week in the air here before the gym shut down. And it reminded me of that time when I felt like the bottom was going to fall out from underneath me. And I knew that other people here were going to feel that too. And I knew that I had the tools to help. As Sergeant Ken briefly mentioned, I have a trademark program called Empower Fitness, which consciously uses your workout as a mirror to empower your life. And the people that train with me know that. I started streaming my classes before we even shut down because I had regular members that wouldn't even come to the gym. So within 8 hours of the announced shutdown, I had completely transformed this apartment into a full-time, fully operational live stream studio with a full class schedule and people already signing up to take them. I poured myself into positive psychology and resilience training. I already had a bit of a background in positive psychology, but I poured myself into this intensive daily offering and then began to use those tools as my class themes. Because you see, like I said, I've been through this before. Life changing drastically, overnight, unexpectedly. Barely able to sleep some nights, trying to sleep away other days, and crying on the New York City subway because they say you are not a true New Yorker until you've cried on the subway. But my biggest fear back then was that I would not know how to provide for myself. This time though, just what was it, 5 or 6 weeks ago from this seminar, when this is being recorded, if you're watching the replay, this time, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to feel any fear, to feel any anxiety. I went into full-on service mode. I knew that my tribe needed the tools that I had to give them, and they have gratefully shown up for them. Another struggle I've had is with insecurity around money for as long as I can remember. My dad was fully supporting me to follow my dream and be in a dance conservatory. And when he got sick, we were in a lot of debt. And there were a lot of people who were angry about that, and they let me know it. And no matter how many moments of success I've had over the past 11 years, winning SCW's Fitness Idol, becoming a national and international presenter, didn't matter. I think I might have still struggled with a little bit of PTSD around this financial trauma. Can any of you relate? An amazing thing happened 2 weeks ago. I texted one of my dad's longtime best friends to check in on him and his family, and he immediately picked up the phone and called. And I told him about my overnight entrepreneurial endeavors, and I felt like his pride was my dad's pride smiling down on me. And then he asked about my family, and I don't know why, but I told him about those emotional wounds and that financial trauma. And he then paused and said to me in a strong fatherly voice, "Don't you feel any guilt about that? I was talking to your father all those years that he was doing that, and he was doing exactly what he wanted to do." He told me that sometimes people feel fear and anger, and then they just use it to point the finger at somebody else. And then he emphasized to me that my dad did exactly what he wanted to do, and that I should never feel any fear about that. I remember calling up Steve the next day and like crying hysterically to him over the phone, telling him that story. It was so amazing because for the past 2 weeks, I felt this 11-and-a-half-year burden just lifted, and this just newfound spiritual support from my dad. So I now have this new venture with multiple streams of income and a brand growing so fast that I can hardly keep up. So my question to everyone here is, what are you going to let go of? What limiting belief do you not have time for anymore? And what strength will you bring forth now to be in service? If you write it into the chat, maybe Sergeant Ken will read it for you after, because I didn't prepare to do that during this. Please, please. And while you're doing that, I'll share mine. I mentioned earlier that I didn't have time for anxiety or fear. And my biggest character strength is gratitude. So thank you, Sergeant Ken, for doing this. It is truly revolutionary and so needed right now for all of us. And thank you. I want to scroll and look at your faces again. Thank you to all of you watching. Hi, Diane. Thank you, all of you watching. I appreciate you because it keeps me on a mission with a purpose.
Woo! Wow! Talk about loving that transparency. Oh man, you are amazing. This has just been an amazing journey. And we want to have time. I know we're a little bit past our target of 90 minutes, but we want to make certain we still have time for Q&A, and some of it has been addressed in the chat bar, but we want to make certain that we treat this like an interactive program. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw in that closing and just say that over the past several weeks, we have been forced to adapt to a new standard of living by social distancing at supermarkets and fuel stations, or simply staying at home. For many of us, we have unexpectedly uncovered peculiar parts of our own personality while also observing the crazy quirks of the people we care for. Some of the bold behavior within completely congested spaces has created a climate of calamity, while some actions wound up cultivating connection and closeness. Some of us has felt the need to fill our schedules with tasks without clear and concise goals that bring us closer to our vision and our why. Just because we're doing a lot doesn't mean we're getting a lot done. Some of us are seeing symptoms of burnout and extreme exhaustion with no end in sight. People don't burn out because of what they do, they burn out because they forget why they do it. The bottom line is that we must have the faith that we will triumph over tough times, even if we can't see the path of victory in front of us. To have faith is to believe in not what you are to become, but to believe what you are already. So the call to action that I close with for all of this program that we titled Strength in the Storm is, how do we put action behind our aim and live intentionally? How do we push for perspective and allow our situations to make us better instead of bitter? If we want our lives to be fruitful, we need to start planting seeds. These are not times to bring back what we had, but to become something better. Well, I see a lot of comments coming in the chat bar, but I want to spend 5 minutes or so just to address a question that is just burning in your heart to share with somebody. So if you got a question, you want to unmute yourself and I can spotlight you. What we'll do is, say this question is for this speaker, or something that's generally for all of us. So go ahead, chime in, and let's make this, let's close this with something of some sort of answer to something that's really resonating with you right now. All right. Who's going to speak first?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Shelly, I'm going to pin you. Shelly,
okay.
Go ahead.
And there's ISIS in the background. I don't have a question per se, but I just want to say I'm so glad I was able to be here tonight. Woo! Damn, what a roller coaster. All of you are fantastic, and oh yeah, this whole, how crazy is it that every single one of us have been thrown into this hot mess, which we can turn into, either we can interpret as like a shitstorm, pardon my French, or a reset. So we can take it and think, okay, now is it Mother Nature saying, you know what, everybody just stop. Everybody just stop, regroup, rethink, whatever your interpretation is. Over 10 years ago, when I was listening to Lindsay, ooh, man, that got me, because I've been there in my own way. My dad died 10 years ago, and my mom actually died before Christmas this year. 10 years ago, I was a different person. Sorry. Than I am now. I am a much stronger, much more balanced individual. If this global situation happened 10 years ago or more, I would probably be a nervous wreck. But I just know that, you know what? It's all going to work. You have to sit, you have to focus, you just have to think. You have to get yourself, you can't do anything if you panic. You can't function. You have to sit and you have to focus and just say, all right, just what are my skills? This is what I ask people if they tell me, you know, that they're in a situation. I'll ask them, what skills do you have? What can you bring to the table? You know, so you're not going to drown. If you panic and freak out, you're going to drown. But if you just stop and think and just relax, it will come. So the beauty of all this is that I've been wanting to really get online for the longest time. Well, now's the time. So thank you. I'm not going to take up any much more time, but
You're fine. You're fine. You're awesome. Tasha, what do you want? It looks like you already had a quick text to respond to Shelley. What do you want to say to Shelley to give her that inspiration and hope that we all need to hear?
You know, Shelley, the things that you would say to the people who are closest to you or the people who are in your circle of influence is where you find your answers. You know that it is in you. The light is shining on you right now, and I don't mean physical light. And so that is for you to be inspired here to carry forward. You now have the torch. Mm-hmm. And so I just thank you for being present. And I noticed a lot of your feedback, and I appreciate that, because it means that you were tuned into what we were saying, and we are now tuned into the energy that you have, and looking forward to seeing how you translate this into your circle. So you got it, girl.
Thank you. I will DM you.
Please do.
Thank you.
Please
okay.
do.
Thanks. Okay.
Good. I'm gonna have Candace. Where are you at right now? Unmute yourself and chime in, and we want to get you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. All right. So my question is kind of more or less for the whole group, because I see so many people on here, and we all just got an extreme amount of overload of transparency, insight, inspiration, knowledge, strategies. But I want to ask people, what is 1 to 2 things that you are going to make sure that you are doing after COVID happens, and that's not going to allow you to be the same as you were before it started? So for me, one thing, I'm fitness into, just like all of you guys, well, most of you guys, but I never really allowed myself to like take time to stretch or to calm myself. And if anybody knows me, besides my driving to work, my silence there, I'm a go, go, go kind of person, and I hold a lot of energy, but I've started with having so much time to implement stretching and mobility work into my daily routine. And I have come to realize the emotions that have been releasing within my practice of stretching and mobility. And I've come to also realize the creativity that it also allows to flow throughout my body instead of just storing. So that's my thing that I know has really transformed my way of thinking, my way of living and moving. So what are some ways for you guys that you're going to do so that when our listeners or whoever's going to watch this, maybe they can implement it as well?
Love it. Love, those are some wonderful takeaways, Candace. And Candace goes by the nickname that I gave her years ago when I met her in a CanFit Pro in Toronto, Spark Plug. And so there's now 7, 8, 9, 10 people that want to chime in as well. And I wish we had the time for all of you. So we'll have to take some of this conversation to Facebook later. But you know, I want to make certain that we get at least one more person in to, you know, go live with us all. And so, Laura, I'm going to unmute you and pin you to this conversation and help us close this.
I feel like each of you were so amazing because for the last 3 years, I've dedicated myself to writing about the sacred sojourn of the soul. And each of you were speaking into the transformation where you leave home and then you go through the valley of transformation and then you come out having integrated the lessons, embodied a new energetic frequency, and then are able to contribute the wisdom and insights that you gained and gleaned from the journey that was actually the destination. Because each moment, if we can land fully present here, that's when then we truly align the body, mind, heart, spirit, soul connection and can move out of the fear. Like what we are all battling, it's the old karaoke parable, which wolf are we feeding? And so I don't know that I have a question as much as simply to say that each of you are choosing to feed the wolf that helps us lead ourselves home back to our heart center. And if we can truly sit in that space with that full alignment of all of who we are, calling back our soul fragments from the past into the present to create that future, that we become the CEO and the board of directors and the one that chooses when we move instead of being told what to do. Because if we don't stand for something, we will fall for anything. And we truly can't afford that now. We need to see the Bible, and I just recently heard it as basic instructions before leaving Earth. Regardless of your faith foundation, if that's yours, great, but it's like, let's take God out of the box and use language to have the box edges and walls actually interconnect us and bring us together so that we can become the one people that we truly are, regardless of the color of our skin. It's just the hue. And if we can just connect, and instead of putting God in a box by using language to separate us, what if we dropped the walls so that then we could just say, okay, keep your box foundation because that's what makes you feel safe. And safety right now is the principal and primary thing that we must understand. Ultimately keeps us centered, because when we feel safe, our nervous system is calm, and then we're able to actually relate, and we don't go into the automatic fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, and we actually can respawn from a creative state instead of the reactive state. And if we think about it, where's the difference? Is it creativity or reactivity that we're doing? Which is the difference between living in the present moment where we're creative, we're living in the past or future of the not now moment we have no power in. And so I love how each of you have brought together the experiences you had to contribute to the tribe who are at home literally. and now able to listen to and marinate in all the wisdom and insights to decide what it all means to and for them and us, and then ultimately what we're going to do with that. So I love how each of you had your own call to action and how it was all very practical and actionable, which is what takes it just from the theory into the practice. And from that space, we can actually move forward in a completely different way than just when we're using one aspect of ourselves.
Woo! Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, we targeted 90 minutes, but 2 hours went by like that. And so many takeaways. Folks, just do me this big favor. Follow all of these speakers on the links that we provided in the handout. If you don't have the handout, go to the event page and download that handout, because the handout took me 3 days to make, so make sure you get that handout and follow them, because they volunteered their time tonight and to develop their program materials, and for that last webinar that we did on the 3rd of April. So on the 4th of May, we're going to have a brand new team. And we're going to continue this joyful journey of inspiration and hope. So I leave you just with one last statement right at the 2-hour mark that we're on. True joy doesn't mean having the best of everything. It means keeping the best of everything. I love you all. I truly miss you all. And I feel so blessed that now we have a total of 3 teams in North America alone that are willing to donate their time to produce these programs and to put them out to the public selflessly for the next several weeks. And we're going to be launching Project Hope Singapore, Project Hope Philippines, and Project Hope Lebanon very soon. So if you want to continue this conversation, let's move it to Facebook. I'll take the recorded version of this and put it up there as soon as you can. If you were part of this live webinar, only the people that watched it live, you can DM me and I will get you the CEC number through the American Council on Exercise if you're ACE certified, or you can petition through your own thing, because this program is supported through CECs, through ACE, and I'm working on CanFit Pro right now, all right? So don't worry, we will make certain that within the next 30 days, we can draw a certificate for you so that you'll have more value while you're being inspired at home. So again, bless you. Let's all come together. Let's carry this conversation to Facebook and Instagram from here on out. And thank you, Laura, for chiming in. Bless you all and have a good night.
Yay! Good night.
Thank you.